All right. Today was a little frustrating to get a win. I had to struggle through a few rough games. I did actually get beat by the Mirror, one of the players who's watched the channel put the deck together and crush me with it. So that was humbling. I actually am going to try to find that one and upload it. I mean, if you guys play me and you all beat me and you're a fan of the channel, I think you deserve to get your videos up there. So I will start a new folder for fan beatings or maybe just fan games. Maybe the ones I win too, we'll put up there and then start doing the fan inspired games. I think that actually will be the way I go. Should be fun. So anyway, I did make a couple of changes though that seem to have smooth things out. First of all, Bojuka Bog, great idea, wonderful effect. Not a good card though. I've already got a bunch of lands that come into play tapped under Winter Orb. It's a very frustrating card to deal with when you draw it. You're trying to play Dark Confidant on turn two, whatever. So anyway, I took it out and I just put in the old cheater card that we had from back in the day, City of Traders. City of Traders, it's just one of those things that this is one of the few decks that can really take advantage of City of Traders. You can, of course, use for those of you who've already seen it, you can play a pickup land and stack things you click City of Traders, so it goes to the bottom of the stack. You pick up a land with, like, say, Azorius Chancery, pick up the City of Traders, and then you try to sacrifice it, but it's not in play, so it's in your hand, and it's safe. So there's that. But also just consider if you, say, slam City of Traders and pump out an early Armageddon with it, who cares, right? I mean, this deck is planning to blow up lands or lock them down under Winter Orb. So just having the ability to do gnarly things like that, I think it just makes a ton more sense in here. You've really got to be able to get an edge in these matches, particularly against blue decks. So City of Traders for Bog. The other trade out, I took out Vedalken Shackles. Every time I put it in, I find somebody that I face where I'm unbelievably frustrated by the fact that I've drawn Vedalken Shackles. Like, for example, in one of these games you'll see, I played against Jace, the baby Jace, as my opponent's commander. It's the only creature in his whole deck. As soon as it flips, I'm looking at Vedalken Shackles thinking, wow, this is useless. So, or I would have been, except I drew the card I replaced it with, and I was thinking, oh, so glad I swapped it out, which is Disallow. Someone in the channel suggested it, said, why am I not playing counter target everything, or anything rather? And I thought, that is a funny way to describe this card, but considering how nice it was in the past when I had this effect, I think I will put it in. This also does give us a kind of way, as they pointed out, to possibly not die to something like an insane, delve for 30 with a Vial Smasher out. Like in that game where I lost that, yes, I could have Bojuka Bogged his graveyard if I had it just at the right moment, or I could have just simply untapped all my mana, made my play. He tries to kill me. I disallow the triggered ability and go on to win the game. So we'll try that. And then lastly, after being suggested it many, 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 many times, I finally broke down and put Snapcaster Mage in here. So we'll see how Snapcaster Mage works out or doesn't work out. We'll see how good it is or not. I guess we'll just have to play and find out if I like it, if it sticks, or what the deal is going to be. But I do think Snapcaster is a mite tiny bit better, given that I am with the Expedition map now and the higher chance to go get Cavern. It's harder for them to counter the Snapcaster, and that can matter occasionally. But also, with As Foretold, it's a little bit easier to potentially, you can As Foretold either the Snapcaster or the card you're flashing back to mitigate the additional cost that Snapcaster brings to your spells. So I think that's pretty nice there. Plus, I do like having one extra creature just for Palace Jailer, just because if I play Palace Jailer, I want to make sure that my opponent doesn't deal any combat damage to me, and just one more creature in the deck might help prevent that from occurring. So let's check out some games. Unfortunately, I don't actually remember what I swapped out for Palace Jailer. That's the thing. I would like to point out. Oh, yes, I do. I'm sorry. I took out Misdirection. Excuse me, not Palace Jailer, for Snapcaster. I took out Misdirection. I figured Misdirection is an additional way to win a counter war. So is Snapcaster. So let's try it. And that was the swap I made. All right, so I got to go first here, and I'm playing against Game 1, Vial Smasher Garum. And I have a pretty solid hand, but it has Cavern of Souls in it, so I'm hoping, of course, not to get disrupted early. But if I don't, this is looking pretty good, and he does not. So I decide I'm not going to Enlighten Tutor just yet, because what I really want to do is I want to Enlighten Tutor for Winter Orb. And I also decide not to tap out for Grim Monolith here, because I want to prevent myself from getting him to Toroct. So I'm just going to pass. And what I'm hoping is that he Wastelands the Badlands, so the Wasteland gets out of his hand, if he has one, and then I can Cavern of Souls and Azorius Chancery safely over the next few turns. So it doesn't look like he has him. Is this going to play out? I'm not quite sure what's going on here. Okay. I don't know if I just had an extended pause there or what in the game. Maybe I did. Okay, so I'm still trying to debate whether or not I actually Enlighten Tutor here or not. And I think I decide, yeah, just play it cautiously and pass. All right, so now if he has something like Wasteland him, I can stop that as well. I'm not quite sure why this is playing out so slowly. Hopefully it will pick up. If it doesn't, I may have to scrub this video and start over, I suppose. So if you're watching this, it must have picked up. All right, so he doesn't go for his commander there. Now that I can Enlighten Tutor safely with the Mana Leak to back it up, and I can also cast Winter Orb with the Mana Leak to back it up, now I feel it's time. So if he'd gone for his commander, I counter it and Enlighten Tutor for Orb. If he doesn't, I just Enlighten Tutor for Orb and counter his playback. He's trying to figure out how to... There we go. And counter. Okay. Now, he has no basic islands in play. If he did, I might have... Or islands in play, rather. If he did, I might have tried to run out Grim Monolith first to have one extra mana when I played the Orb so that he couldn't daze me. But with no islands, I didn't have to worry about that. So, nice top deck there on the Izzet Boilerworks. It's kind of a rough spot here because... I actually don't have any answer for his commander other than my commander, but he actually plays Liliana Vess here, which, so I throw away the land that I picked up, and here comes Uncounterable Breya, and I figure Vess is now under a lot of pressure. Hopefully he doesn't kill Orb, because a lot of this game right now is banking on that. He does kill Breya, and I decide I'm going to chuck Grim Monolith, and he discards Force of Will. That's so good. So that Liliana is actually acting in my favor right now, and is going to get so much better for me. All right, so let's take a few counters off. If I had Liliana Vess and I were activating it every turn, it would be no different than him having it and using it every turn. And effectively, that's what's happening here. So now I get to, thanks to Daimir, I get to throw away a land. I take one of his lands, but I got to make a land drop and throw a land away. He did not. Not too easily, anyway. I drew Gush here. Well, I really wanted to find myself a second island. So I'm almost set up for the perfect scenario where I can Vampiric Tutor and Gush into what I want. But I need a second island. All right, so my opponent's got a lot of mana, and he goes for Crom and then hits us both with Vess again. This is so good. Throwing away another counter spell, taking just another stupid land from me. Just trying to figure out, okay, I could vamp here, but I can't quite pull off everything that I'm trying to do. I'm going to actually have to be patient, I think. So I let him take the Mox Diamond. Taking a Daze was huge. And then he taps out for Vial Smasher, and that's the go I needed. All right, let's Vampiric Tutor end step. What do you get here? Well, I'll tell you what I get. With triple Carouse. Oh my goodness. And it is game over. So I get to untap all 5 of my lands, and I have 2, 4, 6, 7, 8, 9 mana this turn to play with, which means I could cast my commander, eat Vial Smasher. I have hasted Crom, so I get to swing on over and smash Liliana. At the end of this turn, my opponent has no board, and I'm beating him down with 2 different commanders. And yeah, he scoops it up. So it was funny. Liliana usually is a rough card to face, but because of just the way that all worked out with the pickup lands, just giving me endless fuel for Liliana, never missing a land drop. Boy, that was a super satisfying game. So let's move to game 2. Okay. So game 2. So I'm up to, what, 12. So I'll put that in the title. Telephone Tel Aviv. Telephone Tel Aviv? I'm not sure. Either way, probably telephone. At least that's how it's spelled. Keranos, God of Storms. I keep this hand, and I'm going second. He first turn imprints a Mystical Tutor. I was very happy to see a Mystical Tutor go by the wayside. And he's not doing anything too scary yet, but I do need to draw some land. I draw something better, Weathered Wayfarer. Of course, that's only better if it sticks. And in response, he cycles Sweltering Suns. Pump the fist. Outstanding. So I go ahead and fetch Tundra while he's tapped out so he can't disallow or otherwise stifle my effect. And go ahead and Brainstorm end step. He negates the Brainstorm, which is interesting. So I go ahead and just play Felwar Stone and a pickup land. I'm going to wait on Weathered Wayfarer one more turn. Hopefully he won't kill it. I don't attack though, because if he does play something that like Command Tower that has the potential to produce white, I can actually use Felwar Stone into Wayfarer, and that's a lot better than trying to get an extra damage out. Well, he's got Wasteland right away for Azorius Chancery, but that's okay. Well, he's finally hit his red mana. So he's at 4 cards. He's 1 away from Keranos. I'll go ahead and fetch at the end of his turn. Of course, I played a sack land. If he hadn't played a land, I would have sacked and played... I would have sacked my fetch land and activated Wayfarer in response. Okay, let's see what he's got for Breya. And what he has is Factor Fiction in response. That's rough. So I have a tough decision to make, and I decide to organize Island, Misty, Boseiju in one pile, and I give him Remand and Spell Pierce in the other. And he takes Remand and Spell Pierce, so that's interesting. I thought he wanted mana, but apparently not. So, okay. Well, might as well chip away with Weathered Wayfarer. And down comes Keranos. Of course, I couldn't really do much about that. It's kind of scary card to have him play. It doesn't at least kill Breya, so I go ahead and fetch City of Traders here. A mistake. And my opponent has Force of Will. I should have fetched Ancient Tomb. That mistake's going to be a little bit painful. So he reveals Gitaxian Probe and kills Weathered Wayfarer, then plays the Probe and Flame Slashes Breya. This Tectonic edges one of my Cavernous Souls. This just got really bad. On my turn, I ponder into land tax. My opponent has Remand, which we knew about. So I remand the land tax back to my hand. Kill my City of Traders. See, this is where Ancient Tomb... On the other hand, City of Traders actually worked out here because now I'm forced into land tax mode, so maybe it wasn't a mistake. Strangely enough, if that had been Ancient Tomb, I wouldn't have got to tax. At the time, I thought it was an error, but now in looking at it, I guess it wasn't. All right, so we get to tax, and we're halfway to tax rack. We've got the other half in the hand, so let's go for it. Oh, that is so pretty. Keranos is good, but tax rack is better. All right, I won't even need Factor Fiction now, but I'll go ahead and stack it on top, just in case. Hit him down to 19. I'm actually done some decent damage here. I play Expedition Map, Float an Ancestral, and pass. Opponent drew a mountain. So I've been able to see what he's drawing, and I know that he has at this point in the game. Sorry, I should have brought that up for you. I know that he has Force Spike in his hand. So he has a mountain, Get Probe, Remand is gone. He has Spell Pierce, Force Spike. So I'm actually playing the game around that. So I go ahead and just do tax rack shenanigans. This is the end of my opponent's turn now. He drew a Ghost Quarter for the turn. He didn't play a Mountain or a Ghost Quarter because he doesn't want me to... He's trying to get me out of tax. Well, he's trying to keep me in... because I actually had to play another land, so at this point I cannot... I played Is It Boiler Works, thinking he would play another land at some point, but he has been studiously avoiding the tax rack from kicking in. All right, so I bait him with Demonic Tutor. He counters it. I go for Anguished Unmaking, targeting Keranos. He Force Spikes it. We knew he had that. I Force a Will. I pay for the spike. He then dazes. I force, and he then bounces, unsubstantiates Force Will back into my hand. So it's nice to have Force in my hand, but I just threw away my ability to pick up my land. All right, so and then he plays Vedalken Shackles. So I'm going to go ahead and play a land. even though I don't want to. Opponent reveals Mountain, draws an extra card, casts Wildfire. I go and Scroll Rack in response for 1. I don't want to force a will with As Foretold if I can help it, but turns out I kind of need to. So I force it, and he has not, and I get to Ancestral. So he has not, and look at this turn. He has not stolen anything. So I get to Armageddon, play land, and putting Snapcaster Mage. Listening to the folks on the channel matters here, because Snapcaster comes down, and I get to Anguished Unmaking his Keranos, and it's so good that I put Anguished in here over anything else. So I get to Anguish Unmaking his Keranos here, and then smash him for 7. And at that point, and I get to throw a Jeweled Amulet into play. And at that point, he's fighting through a pretty horrible board position. It's going to be ages before he gets to Vedalken Shackles Breya, and he just scoops it up. And Breya is, of course, somewhat well positioned to deal with the Shackles, given that you can... it's very difficult. Like, normally what you would want to do is slowly start Shackles, activating Shackles on the Flyers, trade Flyers for Breya over and over to avoid taking tons of damage, and then get through it that way. But it's very hard to do once I have enough mana to activate Breya in response. So I'm playing another Vial Smasher deck, and I keep this crazy hand. It's mana tight, but I have Ponder, and I have Force of Will, and I have Dark Confidence. I decided to keep it. I put Preordain on top because I'm thinking that Preordain is the card I want to force with if I need to. I'm hoping I won't. He hymns, so I decide to force. That may have been a mistake. It might very well have been better to let it hit, but it was a high risk because half the cards I don't care about in my hand, but the other half I do, and there's a good chance he'll take either Force of Will, Dark Confidant, or a land, and I just wasn't willing to risk it. He vamps during upkeep, and I figure Confidant is dead meat. But he doesn't go get a card to kill it. And Confidant reveals Deprive, so good. Okay. Now, I missed a land drop here, but at least Deprive ensures I'll get my next one, sort of. And Dark Confidant should find some mana, right? Wrong. All right, well, I'm going to hit for 2, and I'm not going to tap out with Deprive going. He runs out Mystical Tutor for Force of Will, and I just throw Ancestral Vision. Unless I don't really see it like being too useful here. Now, I know he's got Force of Will, but I don't want to take 5 from Force of Will Lavac, so I try to Deprive Vial Smasher right there. Of course, he gets countered. I drew, Ancient Tomb, very nice. So Tomb into Grim, Grim to Demonic, Demonic into, unfortunately, Azorius Signet's just not that great of a play, but he's down to only, 3 cards in hand, and I have to try to win the game, and part of winning the game means I have to get mana out. So unfortunately, I wanted to go get something to do with Vial Smasher, but I'm going to have to let the deck find that for me. So I take 2 more, and I realize that I can't take any more damage against that deck specifically. So I'm going to have to chump block here. I've got 7 cards in hand to his 4, so I need to win with a card advantage of +3, you know. So I try to untap Grim at the end of his turn, taking more damage, and he Ventures the Grim. But that's 1 less card in his hand, and it allows me to... I think about deluging, and then I decide to play Grim again and just run out Breya, because I'm highly concerned about... And then I go ahead and sack and kill Vial Smasher right away. I wanted to sweep the board, but if he played a land and followed up with his other commander, then I would just be eating 4 damage, and I'd be at 1, and I'd lose. So by doing it this way, in case he had removal, which is exactly what... I'm able to protect my life total better. I was expecting him to have just regular removal, not Jace, so now I've got 2 problems to deal with, plus the fact that I'm at 4 life. But hey, we kind of just have to hope Breya will get us there. And if he bounces Breya here, I'm not quite sure what I would have done, if I would have gained life in response or not. But he didn't. Fortunately, he did not make the tempo play. And with me at 4, he really should have. So now I get to kill Jace. And now I'm kind of in the driver's seat, even though I'm in a really bad spot and it's hard for me to use my lands. So at the end of my opponent's turn, I go ahead and sack my fetch land, Mystical Tutor, let it fail, and gain 5 life. I need the life. All right, so we're at 8. He's got 5 cards in hand to my 7. And I play Dak. I want more card selection. He 4 spikes it, which is a little odd, and it lands. So I'm going to go ahead and pick up plateau and then plus up. I would have liked to have picked up Ancient Tomb and thrown it away, but I'm foreseeing the potential, the possibility that I might need to counterspell and then activate Breya, sacking the Signet and the Breya, or in some other order. So he plays the Delve Time Walk. It gets him absolutely nowhere. It's like the world's worst rampant growth. So we're totally fine with that. He plays Deep Analysis. Good deal. Nothing happens. I'm not going to pay life to tithe. I've got land drops in my hand. In fact, I'm throwing away anything that isn't just immediately impactful. And this turn I decide is a time to pull the trigger on Yawgmoth's Will. So we're going to Will, Demonic, and Will into Grim, Grim into Demonic. It's always so nice to be able to sack Grim Monolith to Breya and then will it back out. I ponder into Lightning Bolt because I feel like I want to pressure my opponent's life total now. So this does leave me tapped out on counter magic for a turn, but it allows me to put him, now he's got a bit of a clock facing him. And I feel like that's a much better position than I go ahead and throw away the Wrath of God. It's not going to happen this game. We're just in hold the line mode. But anyway, putting him in under the pressure of the clock, I want to close out this game as quickly as I can. All right. So good things happening over here. No need to keep City of Traders this time. Certainly, I would have played City into Talisman if I hadn't also found the pickup land, which is extremely synergistic with Dak as well. So he goes for Vial Smasher finally, and I go ahead and cast Cryptic, bouncing my Winter Orb. He dazes, but I had one floating, so yeah, I'll just pay for that. Of course, I had another mana untapped, so I'm not really sure where he was going with that. All right, let's plus up, throw away cards that deal damage to me, and a tutor that I don't need when I have everything I need in my hand / play. Go for Orb, Orb sticks. Go for Jace, Jace sticks. Okay, we're going to Jace. And I'll just pass. I'll get him in a minute. I couldn't activate Breya and kill him, but as I see no way that he can do anything other than... I guess he could have had Wipe Away to bounce Breya, but all that would have done... He could have had sudden demise or sudden whatever it is. Does that kill? It doesn't even kill him. Yeah, I don't see any way that my opponent could have got out of that. So anyhow, I mean, he could have bounced Breya, but then he'd be tapped out to do it if he had to Wipe Away. And then I would have just recast it and then activated and killed him if he had no mana untapped at all. So that was it. All right. Hey, I remember to hit the button. And Redwood goes down. So here we are against... oops. Are we going to watch this game? Mehonin playing Jace, who sometimes is harder to deal with than Baral because you only have like a turn to actually kill it. And I keep a somewhat questionable hand given how hard it is to resolve things against blue, but it does have multiple interactivity. Going second, I'd be a lot happier with this hand. I mean, going first, excuse me, where I would have been able to try to run out that Whisper. So at the end of his turn, I go ahead and Enlighten Tutor. And he managed to pull off, I think, twice. But I Enlighten Tutor for Chrome Mox because I got to hit my land drops. I imprint Dak, so I have 2 blue now. Dak generally not too good against this deck. He plays Sync twice from the graveyard, and I counter it with a Remand. So I don't lose any card advantage on that play. Then on his turn, he goes Snapcaster into Thought Scour. After Thought Scour resolves and hits 2 of his lands, him having missed a land drop, which is awesome, I flash out Snapcaster and Enlighten Tutor for land tax. His turn, he has to imprint Chrome Mox, and he imprints it with a Mind's Desire. And I was happy to see this go. Then I make a mistake here. I should have traded Snapcaster for Snapcaster. So I go tax. Predictably, he makes the counter at play, and I evasive action that, so we're good there. I go ahead and hit him for 2. I was thinking incorrectly. Well, I was thinking that having Snapcaster gives me the option to attack Jace if he tries to minus the Jace. So on his turn, he Cryptics land tax back to my hand. I use the opportunity to play as foretold. He uses that opportunity to Mystical Tutor into High Tide. High Tide Turnabout, Compulsive Research, Jace, Temporal Fissure. Oh my goodness. 4 cards going back to my hand, and all doesn't leave the As Foretold, leaves me with just a lowly Snapcaster. Okay, I go for tax and mental misstep, so I never got to tax. So I go ahead and attack Jace here, and he does make the trade, and I'm fine with that since I have the choice to do so now. And then I imprint Night's Whisper on a Chrome Mox so that I can cast Imperial Seal, which resolves. Opponent kills his Jace in order to Cryptic Command my land, which was interesting. The card I got was Force of Will, though, so we'll see what happens. He plays Intuition, and I force. I force it with Supreme Verdict. So the reason I got Force was Supreme Verdict was supremely unuseful, and that made it useful. I try an end of turn Impulse, but he spell snares it, so I go back to As Foretold land. And he gets to flip his Jace. He has endless regrowths. So bad. And he gets to cast Intuition out of his graveyard. And he chooses Future Sight, Deep Analysis, Jace. So I put Future Sight in his hand. He plays Future Sight, revealing an island, which he can't play off the top because he doesn't have the mana. On my turn, I go ahead and play Talisman, Anguished Unmaking, the Future Sight out of play. Very nice. So on my turn, I draw and cast Breya. I draw land and cast Breya. He thirsts in response. And then Force of Wills it, paying the iron price. He hardcasts it. On the next turn, I top deck Yawgmoth's Will. So I Yawg Will off of As Foretold, so that if he counters this, I can hardcast Breya for 6. He responds by casting Glimmer of Genius and then Stroke for 4, and I think I've got him. I make a mistake now, and we'll see how that plays out. But I go ahead and just recast. I replay a land. I replay my tutor. I impulse into Winter Orb and get down a pretty decent board position. I also recast land tax. So now I get to tax up. But I think what I probably should have done is just Armageddoned him here rather than gone the Winter Orb route, because Winter Orb's a card he can fight over with bounce spells, but Armageddon is not. So paying 2 mana plus for the tax plus As Foretold 0, I cast Breya. My opponent has a bounce spell for Winter Orb. I go ahead and kill his... he had a Baral in play, so I kill his Baral. And then he flashes back High Tide, casts Merchant Scroll. Factor Fiction. I separate out... hold on, pause. Oh, I can't. Sorry. He Factor Fictions, and I separate out Gigadrow's Gitaxian Probe Island into one pile, and Serum Vision's Mental Note in the other. He then casts Serum Visions, and I flash Notion Thief out using As Foretold. So if you're keeping track, As Foretold just on this turn has been the equivalent of roughly 3 Black Lotuses, because I cast Breya for 0 and then Notion Thief for 0. This is why I prioritized As Foretold over Night's Whisper or basically anything else. So I get to draw a card there, but he has Vidalcan Shackles and gets to play it using High Tide mana, of course. And Cycles of Miscalculation he could not use because I had an island untapped, and it would have paid 2 thanks to High Tide. He then steals Notion Thief and plays Exhaustion, which says that I can't untap. But I top deck Disallow, added to the deck thanks to suggestions from the viewers, and use Winter Orb to cast a free Winter Orb, or excuse me, As Foretold to cast a free Winter Orb. I attack Jace for 1, he hits me back with Notion Thief, that's fine. I really wish my commander would stop appearing over the cards. I don't know how to make it stop though. So this turn I think about casting my commander and decide not to. I also don't attack Jace because he's shrunk my Thopter. I want him to keep shrinking Thopters rather than actually fighting me. So at the end of my opponent's turn, I Mystical Tutor. I have land tax set to never operate, and I go get Armageddon like I should have the first time. I cast Armageddon without using As Foretold, so I can As Foretold my counterspell if I need to, or my commander. But because he does absolutely nothing to fight me, I'm able to hardcast Breya with all the mana that I had floating, and I'm sitting on As Foretold Disallow, So there's pretty much nothing he can do here. And at this point, my opponent scoops it up. I killed, what was that, a 12 for 1? 14 islands I killed for a mystical tutor, which is a pretty good trade. So anyway, so despite him having Notion Thief and hitting me, um, it's just, it's the power of As Foretold. Like the card is completely undervalued right now. I should have used the arrow, darn it. And I'm very happy with that, actually. I'm hoping, I dread the day when the very difficult decks that we're already dealing with start realizing that they need to put As Foretold in their deck. I think over the course of that mana, I added up, and it generated somewhere in the neighborhood 15 to 20 mana for a 3 mana investment. So, you know, I would say that's pretty absurd. And I like absurd in my deck. All right, so my opponent for the final match is playing Zergo Bellstriker, but I'm going first. So I play land, Chrome Mox Imprinting Counterflux, which is really one of the nice perks of running more multicolor cards. Chrome Mox is just a little bit better. And I go ahead and counter Zergo right off the bat, strictly for tempo. He then plays a 1/3 that's got some potential to do some damage, but I'm going to go ahead and run out Breya, and he has removal for it, so I'm going to start eating some damage, but it's not a super terrible clock. So I go ahead and draw and play a land. I'm going to take some more damage here. Plays a Gitu encampment, and at the end of his turn, and then recast his commander. At the end of his turn, I go ahead and just Factor Fiction. And he separates Palace Jailer in one pile and everything else in the other, wisely realizing Palace Jailer is going to break his back if I Jailer away his 1/3 and start drawing 2 cards per turn. But Factor Fiction for 4, yeah, that's pretty good too. So I recast Breya and pass. I'm giving my opponent the opportunity to make very powerful plays, but if he doesn't, then I'm in great shape. He sends in his commander and Ball Lightning. I go ahead and just accept the hit from his commander because I don't want Breya to die to a shock. He then plays Smuggler's Copter, and I play Duretti, sacking a token to kill his Smuggler's Copter, and now I'm sitting on a remand, plus I have active Breya. On his turn, he goes Skull Clamp onto his 1/3, so I'm going to immediately go ahead and just sack to kill. I also threw a Weathered Wayfarer out last turn, so I'm going to sack to kill his 1/3. He then sends in his commander. I don't think he realized he doesn't get any cards if he doesn't put his commander in the graveyard, so I just trade my last 1/1 flyer for his commander, which goes back to the command zone, and now costs 5 for a 2/1. And he packs it in. I don't think he's got, I mean, clearly if he had removal for Breya, he could make the play, but I could actually recast it next turn. He'd still have to deal with Duretti. And funny enough, despite the fact that my opponent's playing, mono red and I've got 5 lands in play, somehow he's been a little bit, he's been fairly mana flooded. So killing the Smuggler's Copter was really good because he's actually been so flooded that I actually have activate Weathered Wayfarer capabilities, which means I can go fetch a Wasteland and make this a little bit harder for him to win. Or I could just fetch something like Daimir, the pickup land, and I'd probably get Azorius actually. So I'd fetch Azorius and just ensure that, just ensure that I can continue to hit those land drops for Breya, basically for the indefinite future. So anyway, he packs it in though. Good solid game. And that's it. That was 5, I do believe. Yes. So yeah, somebody suggested Disallow. I put it in the deck, and look, it was very useful. Somebody suggested Snapcaster. Actually, many people have suggested Snapcaster. I finally found a way to get it in there. I just figure 2 for 1 on myself with Misdirection, or 2 for 1 on them with Snapcaster. I guess I'll go the Snapcaster route, even though it is more costly in terms of mana. And sure enough, it worked out very well in that game. And then bringing back the old City of Traders tech, I think that just makes a lot of sense. It just gives us more, we just get more broken stuff that we can do early on, and that's what we want to see. So all right, well, that's all I've got for this video. I hope you enjoyed watching, and I think I will put together that video. I'm going to look for folks from the channel. I don't necessarily remember who all I've played, so if you all are interested in seeing your games added to that list, let me know if we've played and roughly the time frame if you can, and I will find your game and I will upload it regardless of who won. And congratulations to the individual who beat me up with my own Breya deck. Although, I will say this. A portion of that had to do with missing land drops, but when you're playing blue on blue, like that's part of the risk you take. And then, the fact that he was able to properly capitalize on that and quickly put the game away speaks to the skill of the pilot. So nice job on that one. All right, that's it. Thanks for watching, everyone. I'll see you next time.